For most of my life, I've been combing the world, searching, collecting, analyzing, and preserving ancient artifacts. My journeys have taken me to some very remote and sometimes, well, let's just say interesting places. But what I've discovered is beyond amazing. Magnificent ancient treasures, made from common clay to precious metals, and all having great significance even in today's world. Crowns of solid gold, absolutely stunning terracotta sculptures made for ancient aristocracy, and unique and extraordinary vessels of bronze, silver, gold, and lacquer, almost all created with an artistry that was ancient long before the birth of Christianity. In the fascinating and mysterious world of antiquities, join us on a mission to separate fact from fiction and fraud, where the two biggest questions are, is it real, and can you prove it? I'm Michael Teller. Welcome to TKAsianAntiquities.com.
What we have here is really neat. This is apparently a Han Dynasty bronze horse, and most of the time from the Han Dynasty in Sichuan province, these horses were made out of terracotta. This one is a thinly cast bronze, and like the others, it's a very large horse. It probably stands somewhere between 3.5, 4 feet tall. That's pretty common for a Sichuan horse. It's made in parts. Again, very common, all the legs are separate, the body's in 2 parts, you've got a neck and a head in 2 parts. Most of these rivets have actually been replaced during conservation. Some of the original rivets had corroded away, others, there were little fragments left, but they were not holding the parts of the horse together anymore. They had to be replaced. But it's neat to see the technology, to actually see how they use rivets. In some cases they would use solder, or what we would think of as brazing, to join metal parts 2,000 years ago. The head, like most of the other body parts, was largely filled with mud. There's still traces of the mud inside that have not been cleaned out. The mud is the result of the tomb flooding. This horse was in a tomb that collapsed and then was filled with water, mud packed into everything. A lot of dirt had to be excavated from inside the horse. We've got all of that saved because it can all be analyzed. It all tells a great story. When we first get an artifact, especially a metal artifact, one of the things we do is to sample it and have it tested for any scientific evidence of age or of tampering or forgery. That little teeny nick right there is where we took a metal sample from the head, and that will be mounted and polished, and it's already been analyzed, and now I just have to look at it under the microscope and look for evidence of natural long-term corrosion, or to see whether it's actually modern metal that's been tampered with. There are some very convincing fakes out there. If you look at the outside of it, you'd swear that it had just centuries and centuries of natural corrosion. You look at the interior, you find it's a completely modern bronze that somebody has worked very hard to fake.
In ancient times, the horse was the symbol that was most used by the aristocracy to symbolize wealth and power. It was considered the brother to the dragon, and was therefore able to take messages to the gods for you. During the Tang Dynasty, the golden age of China, horses were thought of much as people and were brought into the court to dance and to drink wine from cups at the tables along with the rest of the nobility.
When it comes to restoring an artifact, one of the common mistakes that many people make is they go too far. The piece is old, it's supposed to look old. They try sometimes to take it back to its original state when it was first made. If a piece was cast out of bronze, it might have been shiny yellow bronze, but as you can see now, in a 2,000-year-old piece, it's got this beautiful blue and green patina to it. You'll get pottery or bronze both, and people will strip off every scrap of corrosion, every evidence of age, and try and take it back. Overcleaning is the same mistake made by a lot of amateur coin collectors. When they get a coin, they strip it back down to the metal and make it nice and shiny. It might look shiny, you might be able to see some of the details on the coin, but you've just removed all the evidence of age. Oftentimes from a scientific study, you've now removed all evidence that it is a genuine artifact or a genuine old coin. Then you have a hard time proving that what you've got is not a reproduction. Somebody's attempted a forgery. This is actually a lot of fun to work with. This is some of the dirt that was recovered from the artifact. It came from the tomb in Sichuan. The objects in a tomb tell us a tremendous about the culture itself. You've got some areas in which you'd have a lot of servant figures. Other figures would, say in a different area, be all soldiers. You might have horses and chariots, you might have shaman, you might have dancing ladies, depending on the social status of the person whose tomb it was, or maybe even depending on the region and the time period. Was it an area that was peaceful? Was it an area that was seeing a lot of warfare? What was important to those people? And that shows up in what gets buried in the tomb. You get practical things, you get pots, you get cookware, you get weapons, you get toiletry articles, beautiful cosmetic boxes, lacquered dishes for serving food, but you also get indications of whether this was an area of peace and prosperity, whether it was an area that was frequently invaded by other people, especially in some regions of China. You get a lot of the nomadic groups living up in the northern parts who would actually swing down into what we now think of as China and wreak tremendous havoc. Crops were destroyed, trade routes were disrupted. This is actually a fragment of a statue. You can see the pigment on the outside. On the inside, there are still some finger marks from when this piece was made. Sometimes it's so detailed you can actually see the fingerprints of the original artist, all those centuries, or in this case, several millennia later. The contents of a tomb are a fantastic snapshot of what happened in a region of China years and years ago.